There's nothing better than after you get your butt kicked, going back out on the field the next week and just absolutely taking it out on another team. That's exactly what Utah did in their 55-3 win against Arizona State. And we're breaking down the dominating performance by the Utah offense and Utah defense on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcast. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. We love interacting with you guys in the YouTube comments and appreciate all of you who do make us your first listen every single day. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department, and on today's show, we're just reacting to Utah and the impressive offensive performance and defensive performance. I mean, just impressive. Anytime you beat a team 55-3, I mean, that just shows you're doing something right. I mean, yeah, that. Wow, that was something else. I mean, Utah just from the start, Utah executed offensively well on the first drive. Bryson did a good job distributing to it, and it was great to see Devon Vela get into the end zone. But you really knew Arizona State was going to be in trouble, not just when Utah easily moved the ball on them, but as soon as the broadcasters said that Arizona State only had 6 offensive linemen on scholarships available. And when they said that, I'm like, you only have 6 offensive linemen on scholarships available against the best pass rusher in college football right now, Jonah Elliss, and 2 very good other pass rushers, Connor O'Toole, Van Fillinger. And that's not even getting you an elite interior with guys like Samote Pepa Jr., Tafuna, Keanu Tanavasa, Aliki Vaimahi actually got home for a sack. You got guys like David Fotu with active hands, can bat down passes. Like, that's what you're going against with a depleted offensive line. And then, of course, Bourguet unfortunately gets hurt, and it was bad. It got bad really fast. What's that one Will Ferrell meme from Anchorman? Boy, that escalated quickly. That pretty much perfectly encapsulates how this one took place. It got bad quickly. And yeah, just an impressive performance from Utah. So let's talk about it. Bryson played great. 19 for 28 overall, 161 yards, 5 yards a throw, 4 touchdowns, and rushing wise had 7 for 56. Some of that always a little bit, or excuse me, actually, I don't think he got sacked, so that might actually not be deceiving. But I don't know. I felt like he might have had more than 56 yards rushing. Either that or like just the impact of those yards just felt bigger. Bryson did a great job. Andy Ludwig called a really good game plan. And yes, part of it is Bryson getting settled in like more to the offense, Utah opening things up more than anything else. But I think more than anything else, the reason the Utah offense looks so much better against Arizona State than Oregon is because one is Arizona State and one is Oregon. Oregon is the top 5 team in the country right now. And Arizona State is, I don't want to do that to this team because I feel bad. They got a lot going on. They're not any, let's just say they're not even, right now, they're probably not one of the 50 best college football teams. And that's probably not even that hot of a take. It just, anytime you say someone's not top 50 when there's only, 5 Power 5 conferences, that feels a little spicy, but it's not even that hot of a take. So yeah, Arizona State's not great. I mean, look at how the Utah offensive line was just blowing them off the ball repeatedly. Like Jaquindon Jackson played great vision, 13 carries, 111 yards, a touchdown. Great to see Nate Johnson with his late run in there. Jalen Glover, 14 carries, 64 yards. Like Bryson did a good job. Like, everyone did well, but like the quality of the opponent also has to matter. Like, yes, Utah executed, and I love that, but also Arizona State. Like, and I'll even say this is where I was wrong. Like, I was giving that Arizona State front 7 some credit, and they just did not play well, and they got blown off the ball. And Utah deserves a lot of credit for that too, but Washington is going to be a much tougher task for Utah next week. Like, I'm not expecting Utah to go in, and we know Utah's not throwing up 55 points, but we'll see if Utah can cross 30 next week. That'll be a struggle. And I think this is definitely a positive. That's what we talk about all week on Locked On Utes, obviously the Washington matchup ahead, but a lot of positive things to take away from here. But this isn't exactly like, oh yes, the Utah offense is fixed. I was like, it's probably more the opponent than anything else. But I did love seeing, how can you not be encouraged by everything? Whether it was Bryson, thought he was more decisive, made some nice throws. Still misses a couple. Bryson, I'm sorry, he's still a game manager, does a very good job. He did a very good job. It's why he only averaged 5 yards a throw, despite making plays like Tamir McClain had one to Landon King too. And part of that, Utah, being not letting him truly open it up and fire it all over the place. They do keep it a little conservative still, but also Bryson threw 2 interceptions last week. One of those, not his fault really. But you know what I mean? Like there's other throws in that game where it was like those are turnover worthy throws that the defense didn't pick off. So yeah, Bryson played well. Thought he made some good decisions with the ball. Just love how tough he is when it comes to running the football too. Makes good reads. There was one time, Utah ran that option to the outside where he has the decision. He can either pitch it to Jalen Glover or he can keep it inside. He did a good job faking the pitch and then runs and gets the first down. Things like that where he does a good job. Never fumbles it. Just tough, throwing his helmet and head around in there. I just love the way Bryson plays and that mentality of the toughness he displays every time he takes the field. Great showing by the offensive line. Fano over at left tackle. Bills. Coley in at center. Mokafisi. Laumea. Bounce back game for them because they're better than the Sun Devils were up front. And man, they executed. Bryson had time. That was another huge part of the reason Bryson was so good too. Bryson had so much time to throw. The Utah offensive line did a great job keeping him protected. There was a time or two where pressure broke in, of course. And I thought Bryson, like the early one, there was a point where he was going to get sacked in the game, and he shook off the sack and then ends up running for a nice gain. That's where I'm like, okay, Bryson, that's good growth right there. Cause we talked about how he hasn't handled pressure fantastically. So I like that he was able to do that and kind of operate off script in that scenario there. So yeah, good things from Bryson. Like that he gave Landon King an opportunity. Utah just did a good job focusing in on Vele. He's been getting open all season. We've been talking about that on this show, that you got to get Vele the ball more. So I'm happy they were able to do so. And yeah, just fun to watch this offense be able to execute there and see the other guys. Like I said, Landon King he had a career high, I think it was 4 pass catches in this one, or 4 passes caught. Receptions, of course, is what that's called. And he did a really good job. I think that Landon's a guy I'm very excited for next year. He had the touchdown, which was easy. He had the low catch, but there were a couple other ones he got open, and his run blocking was an improvement in this game. Once again, lack of quality of competition, probably paying into that a little bit, but good to see him and just good to see Utah execute in general offensively. Love some of the creativity stuff. Seeing like Dejon Stanley out on the field was something fun and unexpected, and great to see Nate Johnson have that long run too. I know that, no Sione Vaki this game. I think this was one they realized they could rest him up a little bit, and he looked a little fatigued against Oregon last week, so maybe that was why Utah decided to do that. And they're going to need him against Washington, I believe. But if they don't, then Nate Johnson needs to get some more snaps in because he's one of the best athletes on this team still. We saw it once again with the long running touchdown he had. So definitely want to see him continue to get involved. Love how hard Jaquinton continues to run, the vision he displays. Seeing Jalen Glover do his thing throughout this one too. And Munir McClain's catch. Oh my goodness. How about that? That was spectacular. Going up over top with the moss. I loved every second of that play and just watched it back so many times. That's just elite elevation right there. And I definitely want to see Munir continue to be involved in this passing game, because we were talking a lot about, this is where what's new, when you have something that's new that's coming in, you can forget about what you got. We were all talking about Emery Simmons, Micah Pittman, injuries affected Pittman. Season hasn't gone the way Simmons hoped, of course, but Munir McClain was the guy who should have gotten more hype by myself, especially before the season. And I'm glad he showed out in a couple opportunities with some big passing plays, and it was fun to see him get in the end zone, especially on a spectacular grab like that. I wish ESPN still did that "You Got Moss" segment, because I think Munir would be on it. But really like the offense. Hats off to Andy Ludwig. Great game plan coming into this one, whether that RPO, just in general, putting Utah in position with some creative things to succeed. You'll love to see it out of the Utah offense. So very impressed by the Utah offense in this game, as Utah does throw up 55 points. But of course, Utah didn't just win because they got 55 points. They also won by over 50 because their defense only held Arizona State to 3 points. How were they able to do that? Well, we're going to be talking about that in one moment. But first, I want to talk to you guys about another one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes in eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. On eBay Motors, they have everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride or die every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Alrighty, let's talk about the Utah defense. Just domination. It was so awesome. I was hyped to see Leavani Damuni lead Utah in tackles. I think that was something I actually predicted on last week's show. You guys can check me on that. I might be off there, but was happy to see Damuni do his thing. 11 tackles for Utah. Corene Reed was 7. The Utah defensive line was executing. 4 sacks for Utah. We said Jonah Elliss would get 2 sacks. I'll take 1.5. I thought that was good for him. By Mahi, able to get home. We saw some more Jonathan Hall in this game. Cole Bishop, Sione Vaki, just the defense doing what they do, making plays. How about Smith Snowden getting some action? This is where games like this are fun because you get players that get to come in and make and act in this one. Oh, sorry about that. But yeah, just exciting stuff from the Utah defense. And we mentioned it from the jump. I said that once Utah scored offensively, and then I heard that Arizona State was down their some starting offensive linemen, only had 6 on scholarship, not like 6 with experience on scholarship, 6 offensive linemen on scholarships. That'd be like if Utah had to throw Caleb Lomu out there right now, and Caleb Lomu is going to be a very good player. I don't know how that would go in his very first start going against a top 5 defense in college football, which I think Utah still very much arguably is. And I think I'll say top 10 because I think that's an overreaction by me, because during the Oregon game, I did say that Utah was a top 10, probably not a top 5 unit. So we'll say that. This is where even I'm getting overexcited, right? Like, it's hard not to overreact when you only hold a team to 3 points, but the quality of them does have to matter in this one. And just loving what I'm seeing on the Utah pass rush. The secondary play has been elite. JT Broughton with a couple nice pass breakups. Yeah, I got a little grabby one time. It's no big deal. Special teams, that one kickoff wasn't great, but overall they were good. And I'm almost okay. I'm okay in some ways, maybe even glad that happened, because that allows you to get sharp against Washington. Because if you want to go in the Husky Stadium, get a win, stuff like that cannot happen. So those, same thing with missed field goals. Get those out of the way now, so you work on them even harder in practice this week. Really lock in, mentally focus, all those kind of things. And I'm not saying those guys didn't. Like, mistakes are going to happen, but just like whenever you make a mistake, the following week, you're less likely to obviously make that mistake because you're more hyper aware about it and doing everything in your power to correct that. So that's where I think that it's okay that Utah did have those kind of gaffes, because they're going to get them right ahead of the Huskies game. And yeah, just talk about this defense a little more. The job they did, obviously unfortunate, like we mentioned, with Bourguet getting hurt, but yeah, the passing attack was just a mess for Arizona State from there. And yeah, they just could not get anything going through the air. Utah did put, obviously Utah was ready to go with their run defense, putting some extra guys in the box, but never really having a chance was Arizona State offensively with that many offensive linemen out. Once Bourguet got hurt, they already down Rashada earlier in the season. Once Conover came, 5 for 22, 41 yards in the INT. We mentioned good for Miles Battle to be able to bring that one. That was a Moss of his own too, so he got one too. But anytime you heard 5 for 22 is one of the worst. I'm not trying to say this is a dump on the guy. It's one of the worst completion percentages I've seen in a very long time. And give Utah credit too for not just making him uncomfortable. We talked about going to this game. So like, what does Utah have to do to win? Well, they got to shut down Scatabo. And Scatabo, 12 carries, only 31 yards. Also receiving wise, Badger, 1 catch for 1 yard. I think he got held one other time, or there was some other penalty thing that took one away. But either way, like, the best players on Arizona State were neutralized by this Utah defense. And that's a credit to Morgan Scalley and all the individual players for stepping up and making things happen defensively for Utah. Just 7 wins for this team with all the injuries they've sustained. It's just incredible. I know you all are probably thinking about that as well every once in a while. Like, it's crazy what Utah's been able to do, and you love to see it. And as for Arizona State, they had only 6 first downs. Utah had 26-6. They had more first downs. The third down efficiency, 1 for 16 for Arizona State. Utah 10 for 17. Arizona State was held under 100 yards of offense. I talked about maybe Utah could hold them under 100 yards of rushing, while Utah had over 500 yards of offense, only 40 passing yards too. Just, once again, just defensive domination. They had that early field goal that was really set up by the huge return. And the Utah defense just did their thing. The Utah defensive line dominated the line of scrimmage. Demooney and Reed, 1 and 2 in tackles. They did their thing. The safeties stepped up as always, taking care of any big play potential. And the corners were locked down on the outside. This defense is elite, and they showed why. This is what you do when you play teams that aren't as good for you and that have injuries. Like, we thought the Utah defense would be good, but I said, like, okay, Arizona State will score 13, right? They're coming off a win against Washington State, and I thought they'd be able to do some things, but everyone in Rice-Eccles Stadium was riled up. I know the crowd wasn't fantastic at the very, very start. I saw some of those photos, but it looked like later on the place kind of started to fill in. So shout out to all of you guys who make Utah the must, everything that goes into the home field advantage that is Rice-Eccles Stadium. And crazy that only one home game left, and that's going to be the Colorado one, which will be a fun one. I think they're losing to Oregon State, which not surprising. I don't think Colorado is going to get bowl eligible this year, and I'm very curious to see how that team is feeling coming into the game against Utah. I wouldn't put it past. I'm curious if Shedeur is going to play. That could be a hot take, but like if there's nothing to play for, like against that defense, I wonder if we'll see Shedeur play in the final game or not. I really hope we do, but that's just something I'm floating out there. I wouldn't be shocked if that was a thing where it's like, okay, what are we playing for? Shedeur's been beat up. And like, if he's 100% healthy, he'll probably play. But if he's even like 90% healthy, I wouldn't be surprised to see Deion hold him out. I just think that's something that will be interesting to kind of watch and see. If there's nothing on the line at that point in the season, we've seen teams do that before. So I hope that's not the case, because obviously I want it to be, I want Colorado to be at their best when Utah beats them down. But I think that's something that could potentially happen. Something to monitor. We'll see how that whole process ends up playing out. But yeah, and Kenny Dillingham like took out like I didn't have the team prepared for this and that. It's like to me it was more so you had all your offensive linemen gone, you had your quarterback injured. Like any Arizona State fan mad at Kenny Dillingham, I don't understand that when there were so many issues injury wise, and Rice Eccles Stadium, Utah coming off the loss. Utah's a better program and a team right now. That's what Arizona State's trying to work their way into. Kenny Dillingham is far on the blame for losses for me. I thought this was just Utah executing better because they have the better players. And as of right now, it is better coaching by Utah, but Kenny Dillingham didn't even get a chance. I think he's one of the brighter offensive minds in college football right now, but he doesn't have much to work with at the moment. And I think he's got some exciting players there. Scatabo, obviously Badger do really good things, but they were shut down by Utah. So then it's the other guys to step up for Arizona State, and they weren't able to do that. So hats off to the Utah defense, the Utah offense, a masterful performance, 55-3. Nothing better than a bounce back victory. And this was one heck of a win for Utah, just in terms of how impressive they looked. And you want to have a performance like this to give you some momentum going into a tough test against the Washington Huskies. That's what we'll be breaking down this week on Locked On Utes. We look forward to having you with us as we break down that game ahead of us.